Live from the rooftop of the Hermann London Real Estate Group in beautiful downtown Maplewood, it's the St. Louis Realtor Podcast with your host, Adam Kruse.
Welcome, everybody, to Podcast 17. Today is June 30th, 2015, all day long. And we're going to go through our podcast today. We have an agenda created, and this is the St. Louis Realtor Podcast. So we're actually going to talk about realtors and real estate stuff today. And we have a very special guest, my right hand, my everything, my most important. And I'm not talking about the Budweiser in my left hand. I'm talking about Geri Tockstein, the Hermann London Group's most famous office manager, here in the studio with us on the rooftop of beautiful downtown Maplewood, Missouri. Hi, Geri. How are you today?
Hi, Adam. Thank you so much. Hello, everyone.
And thank you for being in the studio with us today, Geri. And we're looking forward to hearing any questions, comments, concerns, ideas, etc. from you. And I know you're going to share some statistics with us as well.
Yes.
Okay, great. So just a quick overview. I think that this is an interesting business. You know, I think real estate's an interesting business, and part of the reason is because there's so many highs and lows. And I think we have to celebrate the highs just as much as we woe the lows, I suppose. And that's definitely something I have to work on. This week I had several closings, some big money closings. I had my wholesale deal that closed. I made good money on that. I bought a house just today that I'm going to rehab. Our company listed a $1 million plus house today. But then, of course, I also paid a bunch of bills today. And I found out that a good friend of mine, who you guys know, Trey Malicoat, is moving away. He's going to go to Florida and follow his dreams. So excited for him, but, you know, it's sad too. So I think it's just an interesting business where there's so many highs and so many lows. And, you know, I understand why some people take on a business partner. Dan Pescorse, a friend of ours, always said he likes to have a business partner so there's someone on the other side when he's trying to high five. You know, and this has happened to me a lot of times, Geri, where I have I have a big closing, and it's like, you know, I'm excited, I want to celebrate, but who do I call? You know, no one cares. Like, oh my God, I just sold the house. I just made good money. This is great. And, you know, call my mom and she's happy for me, you know.
Of course.
But, you know, no one really cares. And I think that's sometimes why it's neat to work on a team and to have partners or whatever. So there's someone there when you're trying to high five. So that's just my little commentary about kind of where I'm at today. There are lots of highs going on and just a couple lows, which aren't that bad, you know, paying bills. But a friend moving away, that sucks. We're going to miss Trey. He was great. And so let's see. I wanted to tell the listeners about a deal I have going on Arthur Avenue in St. Louis. Geri, I need to get you over there. I want you to see that house.
Okay, me too.
You know what? I want you to smell that house because it smells bad. And I think these people must have had a team of cats.
Cats.
Yeah, a team of them over there. And they were just all going to the bathroom in the house. So we found today on the front yard, we found a car door that had been laying in the front yard for quite some time. So I think least of all, you could say I'm going to increase the value of the neighborhood and bring kind of the impression that people have of the street.
Absolutely, and bring up the value of everybody's home on the block.
Mm-hmm. So I like to kind of go through the numbers with people, and you know, it's no secret. It's all public. So I bought the house today for $30,000. Actually, you know, you did something good when you, unless they're just, would I say yanking my chain? But when you go to the title company and the closer says, "Ooh, you got a really good deal on this one," you know, that doesn't happen all the time. But I don't know if she was just being friendly or not. But it makes me feel good. I like it anyway. Thank you, Laura. And so bought it for $30,000. Then I got a realtor commission. In this case, it was about $900. So I guess I really bought it for about $29,100.
Right.
I've been getting different estimates for rehab, and I think they're going to end up being somewhere between $40,000 and $50,000.
Okay. What does that all include?
Well, we're going to redo the kitchen. All new cabinets, all new floorings, new ceilings, new light fixtures, new appliances, new countertops, basically redo the entire kitchen. We're going to redo, there's only one bathroom there.
Okay.
Unfortunately, it's a decent bathroom though, but we're basically going to gut it. You know, I can still picture the look on the face from the contractor's face when he walks in there to the bathroom and he's kind of looking around like, oh my gosh, you know. It's a house like that.
What about systems? I mean, how's the AC, the furnace, the windows? I mean, the structure itself.
I think the structure is okay. We're probably going to have to update or at least do a kind of a major servicing to the AC and the HVAC. You know, it was just a few weeks ago. It was like 100 degrees outside, right? And I went by this house, and there was ice chunks as big as a softball on the line that goes from the condenser inside. That's not good, right? So there's
Probably will freeze the unit up on you.
Yeah, and they just kept it running. You know, there was tenants in there that just didn't care.
Yep.
I was excited they actually got out when they were supposed to. Did they get out with all their stuff? No, they ended up leaving all their furniture over there. But I had Handyman Larry go over there today. Our boy, everyone knows Handyman Larry. He's over there today right now actually mowing the lawn and just kind of doing some general cleanup. Okay. I was hoping to sort of shock the system and make the house instantly at least look a little bit better. The weeds in the backyard were up to your knees.
Right. That'll make the neighbors happy.
But hopefully we can keep the neighbors happy. I have to decide, Gerri, if I want to, do I want to pay like a big flat fee to a contractor who literally does everything? They manage the electrician, the plumber, the flooring, the roofing, the siding, the kitchen. I mean, I've never done one of these before, so do they choose the tile or do I choose the tile? You know, am I going to Home Depot with these guys and picking out the backsplashes? I don't know. And
I don't know. You know, I mean, Jeff Merkel, our Jeff Merkel works with, you know, he's the general contractor on his jobs that he does. I'm not sure how it would work, though, as far as you, but I know he has his team of plumbers and drywallers and people that come in and do the flooring in the kitchens and the baths. Might be something you may want to ask him about.
And so he does. He acts as a general.
And part of it is the amount of time that it would take, whether it would be worth it for you to, you know, play the general contractor role yourself, or whether it would be worth it to pay for someone to do it.
And you're thinking, Adam, pay someone to do it because you don't want me gone all the time, leaving you here, stuck doing everything. Okay. Well, it's a big question, and you know, I was planning on using just using one big company to just do the whole thing. But it's funny because I was talking to my brother yesterday and I'm like, yeah, I bought it for $30. I can, you know, pay a contractor $40 to $50 to do it. And, you know, it's just going to be easier that way. And I'm hoping to sell it somewhere between $125 and $150. But let's just say let's just use $120 for easy numbers.
Okay. It's
like, oh, if I buy it for $30, pay a contractor $50, sell it for $120, you know, rough numbers is that I'll make $40. Right, and it's like, or I could act as a general contractor myself,
and save some money,
and instead of spending $40, maybe spend $30. And my attitude was like, oh, that's okay, but I'll only save $10,000. And then I'm thinking, what?
$10,000 goes in your pocket, though. Right?
I'm like, what? What did I just say? Why did I just say that? So I'll have to decide if I'm going to end up acting as a general or not. I do know a lot of plumbers and electricians and flooring guys and everything just from being in the business and being a property manager. So we shall see, but I'll try to keep you guys in the loop on that process. I want you to try to learn from my mistakes as I go through what is actually my first rehab property. The reason I consider this my first is because I'm planning on selling it. And all the other properties that I've bought and updated, I've kept and held them as rentals. So this is my first flip, I guess.
But isn't this your first major type renovation? I mean, you've done work on your other properties, but have you actually...
Yeah, if I end up spending $50,000, this will be my first major deal. I think the house that I live in now, we spent more like $30,000 probably on the updates and stuff like that. But I did a lot of that kind of thing myself too. So, all right, that's about enough on Arthur. Gerri, you've prepared some statistics. You're just going to give us what is this? Just like kind of a general.
Just tells you a little bit about the different areas in St. Louis, and what we've got going on as far as number of listings, average listing price, current days on the market, just to give you a feel of what's going on in some of our different areas around St. Louis. Okay, like for instance, right now in South City, there are 1,355 listings right now, currently. Current days on the market, they're averaging those at 97 days.
Okay, that's about the same as it's always been. I always quoted people that your house will probably be on the market around 90 days.
Right, 3 months.
What's my average price there?
Average price is running around $157,000.
Okay, Adam. That's good. That's a little higher than average, I think.
Yeah. So then let's take a look at Kirkwood, for instance.
Okay. Everybody loves Kirkwood.
Everybody loves Kirkwood. It is popular right now. we're looking at only 353 listings in Kirkwood.
Wow. Okay.
I mean, big difference between South City.
I guess it's probably a little smaller area, but...
True.
Okay.
Days on market, averaging around 76. So they're selling a little bit quicker.
Wow.
And your average listing price in the Kirkwood area is around $441,000.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's funny. Kirkwood is so popular. Kirkwood and Webster.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Webster, if you want to hear Webster's in comparison. Webster, we're looking at 279 listings, 82 days, average days on the market, and an average listing price of $3,004. Almost $305,000. 305.
Okay, so
thousand. So it's a little bit less than your Kirkwood.
I wonder why. It's interesting. I guess Kirkwood has a couple major $1 million type of homes.
Yeah, might just have a little bit more of an expensive area.
Okay.
A few homes will bring up that price, that average.
Anything farther out west? How about Maplewood?
Okay, Maplewood, Richmond Heights. We're looking as of when these stats were run, we have 87 listings right now.
That's it?
That's it.
And that's Maplewood and Richmond Heights?
That's Maplewood and Richmond Heights grouped together. Current days on the market, 77. So we're under that 3-month period with an average listing price of $211,000.
Okay, so that's interesting. There's a lot more homes available in Kirkwood and Webster than there are in Maplewood, Richmond Heights. But I think that's interesting because so many people find it hard to buy a home in Kirkwood and Webster because they sell so quick, you know?
Right.
But that must just be kind of that certain, 150 to 400 or so price range, I guess. Mm-hmm. Okay. Any other statistics to share with us?
Downtown. I'm always curious as to what's going on
Everyone
downtown.
Loves downtown. Okay.
With
what's
the loft community down there. Right now we have 176 listings. The average days on market is 129. So it takes a little bit longer.
They're sitting.
To sell, with an average listing price of $180,000. So that kind of gives you an idea of what's going on in the loft community downtown.
Okay, the average is always interesting. I guess median would probably be more appropriate because for the average in Kirkwood, for example, there's a ton of them that are probably selling with 3 days on the market.
Yes.
And then there's that one guy who's listed his house for way too high and he's on the train tracks and he needs a rehab and he's basement floods and he's asking $500,000 or whatever and he's been on the market 3 years, so kind of messing up statistics. But that was good. Yeah. Okay, thanks, Geri. I think people like to hear that kind of thing. I wanted to talk a little bit about what is a good referral up next. So we have people that refer us actually a lot of business. And I think that people don't necessarily know when to refer or what we would want. I've heard people say, I didn't know if you would want to deal with a buyer like that. They're only buying a $100,000 house or something. Or I didn't know if you would want to list a property like that. It's all the way out in Lake St. Louis, that type of thing. So to me, I wanted to just kind of talk about a little bit what is a good referral. I guess it's kind of funny, but a good referral to me is anyone who wants to buy or sell real estate, really. And for us, they could be buying or selling any type of real estate, including commercial or including residential, or anyone who wants to lease property as well, because we do leasing and property management. But like I mentioned earlier in the podcast, heck, I bought a house today for $30,000, and we listed a house today for over $1 million. So we kind of handle a little bit of everything all the way in between. Our service, the service that you give, Geri, is pretty much the same, whether it's in Lake St. Louis or whether it's downtown, right?
Absolutely, Adam. And it's important to note that we have agents all over the area. Anywhere from St. Peter's, St. Charles, O'Fallon, Wentzville, all the way down south to Imperial, Kimmswick. We've got every area covered, and we have an agent who's familiar with those areas.
So I guess our secret for how we make properties sell faster is done mainly from the office, right? It's the things that you do on that checklist and the people that we hire to do the photos and that kind of thing. So it doesn't matter too much where they are. Any comments about what a good referral is to you? A $1 million buyer who's all cash and already found the house that they want to buy?
Sure, we'll take those every day.
Yeah, someone called me today and they're like, is it okay? My assistant Tyler wants to buy a house. He found a house that he wants in Tower Grove. He just needs a realtor. Is it okay if I have him call you? And I think they're just being polite, and it's probably professional of them to call me and basically warn me that I'm going to get this phone call. But I'm like, yes, of course, absolutely. Yes. Please have him call me. I want to work with him. I'm available to help him. So we love referrals. Let's see. I just was going to sort of vent, I guess, a little bit. I wanted to talk about being a business owner and having so much to stay on top of. We're hiring an assistant for you, which is nice.
Yep, she starts tomorrow. And that's because there's so much to do, right? And for me, there's a lot to do. And one of the things that kind of stresses me out, because I love it, is staying on top of our website and what we're now calling our digital media strategies, because there's so much to do with the Facebook and the e-newsletter and the website and the Google Plus and the property search website and all this kind of stuff. So I'm excited that we hired a new intern. And Jesse is here from where? Michigan? He goes to school in Michigan? Yes, he goes to the University of Michigan.
Okay, and he wanted to be a digital media strategist. So what we did is we looked up a bunch of different jobs that were available and for
put him to work.
People
He's working hard.
Yeah, we found jobs that were people that were hiring digital media strategists, and we looked for the type of experience that they wanted. And then we designed and custom tailored a program for Jesse around giving him that specific type of experience, right?
Yep.
So that now he'll be able to walk into his interview, after this internship, either for his next internship or for his next job, and he'll be able to say, I installed Google Tag Manager into Hermann London's website, and I used the Moz software, and we increased their web rankings by 10%, and we increased their conversions, and he'll be able to speak with education, I guess.
Yes.
And it's going to help. So it'll help him and it'll help us to increase our web presence, which in turn, I guess, helps all of our clients too, so they can get a little bit extra exposure for their house. So if you don't have the Google Tag Manager, that's something he already taught me about. Most of you that have your own businesses, that have your own websites, you probably have Google Analytics installed, but Google Analytics has kept improving and bettering themselves, and one of the new things they have is the Tag Manager, which my understanding makes it so you can really track every single button on your website that's clicked, not just like the pages that they go to, that kind of thing. So you got to get the Google Tag Manager. Let's see, Gerri. Let's talk about Rosa a little bit.
Okay, what's going on with Rosa, Adam?
Well, we evicted the tenant.
Yes.
As you know, and did that put some pressure on you dealing with all that?
No.
Good.
It's just a shame that that's what sometimes it comes down to.
Yeah, so what we did is we had a tenant. Rosa is a 4-family building that I own with a partner, and I've talked about it on the podcast before. And we had to evict a tenant. She hadn't paid her rent for actually 7 months, and I was trying to make deals with her and work it out, but it's actually my fault that the eviction process took that long because I didn't respond to the attorney as fast as I should have. I didn't realize he needed a response, whatever, but it was my fault. But once it came time for the actual eviction, it was so much more non-dramatic,
I guess?
Underwhelming? I don't know what to say, but I was nervous. It was like stomach ache time driving over there. I thought there was going to be screaming and crying and yelling and fighting. And
so what happened? I mean, I know the sheriff shows up and...
So we had it all scheduled. The sheriff was supposed to show up at 3 o'clock. I was going to show up at 3 o'clock, and I knew that I had to change the locks, and our attorney had told us we had to move all their stuff. So I showed up there just a couple minutes before 3, and the sheriff was already there, and they got out of their car as soon as they saw me, and they were meant business, man. They were ready to go. They were ready to walk right inside and take care of business. I was like, hey, guys, hold up just a second. This is my first time doing this. Can we talk a little bit? What's going to happen here? Do I have to throw all of her stuff away, literally, like my attorney told me, or what? They didn't want to talk to me. The sheriff didn't want to talk to me at all. They were just like, we're just here to make sure you change the locks. Yep. You're going to change the locks? Yep. Okay. We don't care. Okay. So we came in there. They kind of screamed like, who's here? Anybody here? Blah, blah, blah. The place was clear. The lady wasn't in there. Most of her stuff was still in there.
She had already taken most of her stuff, and
she had taken a lot of her
gone.
stuff. But so while they were still there for the very few minutes that they were there, and I started changing the locks, she showed back up. I was nice enough to let her get a couple more carloads of her stuff or whatever, while I was still at the house. But they left. And while she was still there, actually, they just left. And I spoke to another sheriff about this afterwards, and I guess those guys' job is that's all they do all day. They just go evict tenants all day long,
Right.
And things have changed. My neighbor told me about when he evicted a tenant before, probably 20 years ago, the sheriff showed up and they actually had like convicts with them that were doing the moving.
Right, because when my sister had to evict a tenant, and that's been a good number of years ago, the sheriff not only opened the door, but they started hauling. They had a crew there, and they just started taking all of the tenants' belongings, and they were just throwing them in the alley and out on the curb.
Yeah.
And people were coming by and just going through it and taking it. And, it was...
It's sad. It's kind of really messed up, you know? Yeah. I mean... But I guess that's the business. But now they don't do that anymore. So they just
simply are there to make sure the locks are changed.
All the sheriff cared about was that I changed the locks, which I changed the locks, and then they didn't seem to care. Which, from when I asked them if I left her stuff in there or if I sold it on eBay or what, if I moved in and started using her desk or whatever, But
wow.
My attorney said I had to throw it all away, so we rented the U-Haul. And we packed everything up, an entire U-Haul full, and we took that to Goodwill, actually.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next day we came back and filled a couple truckfuls more junk, and then we actually took that to the city dump. So
there was quite a bit left then, even though she had taken some of her belongings. It was
the most extensive, collection of shoes and Christmas decorations and whatever that I've ever seen, And she actually had a chance she had at least 2 truckfuls and like 3 or 4 carfuls that she had already gotten out of there.
Mm-hmm.
So I think she was just kind of like maybe a little bit of a hoarder. So then the property today, that wasn't an eviction, so I'm allowed to keep whatever I want to, but I used to get excited when, it's like you go to a vacant property and there's stuff there. It's like, oh, I wonder if there's anything good in here. There was nothing good at the property today. There was, beat up sofas and half smoked cigars and just like... old dirty furniture and just trash, So when I first got there, I was like, oh, let me look through. There's nothing good there. They had a big box with like broken Bic lighters. I don't know. I'm not sure if that was a drug thing or something. I'm not sure, but I was like, all right, I don't want any of this stuff. Larry, if you want any of this stuff, get it out of here. But otherwise, we're just going to get a dumpster, I think, and throw it all away. So now that we've have her out of there, we've redone the floors.
Okay.
Brad Evans, I'll give him a shout out. He does a great job with the hardwood floors. We've painted everything. We've cleaned and cleaned and cleaned. We're going to put tile in where there's linoleum, and we're going to put in new baseboards.
Nice.
So my question now, Gerri, is do we allow the other tenants in the building who are chomping at the bit to move into this one unit because I guess they like the layout best? Do we allow them to move in, or do we just find a different tenant? I'm worried about if we allow one of the tenants from the building that's currently in there to move in to this new unit, then how are we going to deal with their unit? What if they don't do a good job cleaning it? What if they've damaged things? It's a lot of times the move outs can be a little bit uncomfortable when, we have to use somebody's part of their security deposit to do fixes and stuff like that. Do you have any hot tips on me there?
Well, I don't really have a hot tip. I just know the tenant in particular that you're speaking of, and I just think that they've done a nice job overall of taking care of the property and the yard, and I think maybe it would be worth the consideration to give them the opportunity maybe to move in there, but maybe with, preempt it with stating that this is all providing that their unit has been taken care of.
That's good. And we're going to give them a chance. The rent's going to be a little bit higher because it is, I guess, a more popular unit. So
right.
Last off, I just want to talk a little bit about, I guess I want to talk directly to realtors, or maybe if, someone who's using a realtor or needs to use a realtor is listening in, make sure that you use a realtor who knows their business. And I think this is the benefit of using a realtor who has experience. Or for us, when we have a new realtor join our company, we always like to make sure that they are working closely with me, the broker, or with another experienced realtor. Where I see problems or examples like that I'm going to mention at our own company is an agent who's been in the business a long time but has kind of gone part-time and is focusing on other things in their life, or an agent who kind of goes rogue and tries to start doing stuff on their own. But there's been several examples that have happened in the last week or two where I think an agent is feeling the pressure, or they're being, I could say they're trying, another agent is trying to push them around a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And if the agent knew the contract better, if they would be more on top of their details, and if they would be kind of checking all the little things, I I think they would not have these situations. Let's see. Here's an example. There's been 2 examples where the seller agreed to pay a certain amount for closing. One of these examples was with me. The seller had agreed to pay $6,000 towards the buyer's closing costs.
Okay.
For a closing I had last week. And when we didn't, the lenders right now are all busy. They're all there. So we didn't actually get the final numbers until we were at the closing table. I didn't have a chance to review the HUD ahead of time. You hate it when that happens. That's kind of one of the benefits of this new Dodd-Frank thing, I guess. But so we're looking at the HUD, and the closing cost that was covered by the sellers in that case, was only $5,100. And so I think an unexperienced agent would have just kept sitting there smiling, but I was like, this is not...
this isn't right.
This will not stand,
Right.
And so the sellers had... I guess the title company had credited the buyer for all their normal closing costs, but in this particular case, the buyer had prepaid for all of their inspections. Mm-hmm. And so my buyer was awesome because I said, well, look, I don't want to leave this money on the table. I want this credit. I want
to be used.
Yeah, I want to use the entire $6,000 if we can in a legitimate way, And so what about the inspections that we prepaid for? My buyer was awesome. He reaches into his little folder and boom, there he had
his receipts.
He had all of his receipts. So we were able to cover I think we got to like almost $6,000. It was like $30 off or something like that. But because he had prepaid for his building inspection, he'd prepaid for his termite inspection, and he got a sewer lateral line inspection too. So, and I guess radon was included in his building inspection cost. But a less experienced agent, I think, would have left that money on the table. And essentially that was free money to my buyer.
To
because
the buyers.
He had prepaid for that, and now he was just literally just getting that money back. So call it free money if you want to. But we had an example similar to that didn't happen as well, where an agent called me and said, I think that they didn't use all of the credit, and the buyer did prepay for their inspections. So can I go back to the other agent and try to get the seller to pay for it? I'm like, you can try. And she's like, well, she's been mean this whole time, And so I think that you have to know what's going on. And an agent who is more part-time, I think she should have kept, I guess, the company or kept me more involved in her deal so this kind of thing wouldn't happen. But there's a lot of realtors out there who will try to push you around. And so you need to know your stuff. Well, there's an example I want to bring up, if you don't mind.
No, not at all. Go ahead.
And you know what I'm going to talk about.
Yep.
We had a listing, and this was actually the weirdest thing. I don't quite understand the realtor's logic, but we had a listing. It was closing. The buyer's agent was going over to the property. Was it the day before closing?
Final walkthrough.
To do the final walkthrough. And the seller had hired a cleaning company who was actually at the property cleaning during the final walkthrough.
Correct.
But the buyer's agent called you screaming.
Correct. Saying that the place was filthy, that she couldn't believe that anybody would leave a property in this type of condition. The floors were dirty. There was dust everywhere. The carpets needed to be vacuumed. And I was a little taken back because I knew that the cleaning crew was there and they were hired to do a deep cleaning of the home.
So was she demanding anything?
She was demanding that it be cleaned.
Even though the cleaning people were there?
Even though the cleaning people were there. But just really fired up over it.
She was fired up.
She was fired up. And the crazy thing about it was that nowhere in the contract did it say anything about the property being professionally cleaned. And the seller simply did it as a just...
To be nice.
To be nice.
A common courtesy, I guess you could say.
Common courtesy. I hired the cleaning crew to go in and do the deep cleaning, but at the same time, the agent was just yelling and like I said, fired up about it not being cleaned, which was a little confusing, like you said, because the cleaning crew was there doing the cleaning. So
I think it's interesting, and I actually see this a lot where, and this happens just in general in life, where if someone's embarrassed if they've done something wrong, then they sort of like strike out at other people or whatever, So
yeah, they
I don't
become
know.
Defensive.
I don't know if this agent knew that she had done a bad job representing her client and didn't put into the contract that the property should be cleaned, or if she just didn't know how the contract works and thought that it had to be cleaned because in her past it had been cleaned. But I see that where these agents, they, in my opinion, they really embarrass themselves when they're trying to look tough or they're trying to teach their client that they're representing them or whatever. So they call and they start screaming at people.
Yeah, after the fact.
Really, if she would have known her business, she would have kind of set the expectation for the buyer from the very beginning. There's nowhere in this contract does it say that the seller has to clean the property. And by the way, in my experience, sometimes I've written in the contract, property must be broom cleaned or whatever.
Yes.
But still, I've done that before. Me, Adam Kruse, I've done that before. But I still tell them, but by the way, don't expect anything, because clean to you is much different than clean to me, is much different than clean to our producer Joey here.
Right.
You can't really define clean. Everyone has their own sort of definition for it. And so the best thing you can do is set your buyer's expectation. This place will probably be dirty. I don't care how clean it is. You're probably still going to clean it anyway, aren't you?
Go in and clean it.
You're gonna wipe your bleach right over their bleach, right? Whatever. So
yes,
I think she had done a bad job setting expectations for her client. But I'm glad that you knew your business well enough, and we knew our business well enough to not say, "Oh my gosh, we'll pay for someone to go out there," or whatever, or to call our seller and start screaming at her or something like that. We knew that it's like, I think you did the right thing. You were just being nice to the lady and like trying to calm her down. And of course I come in and I'm like, well, did you tell her she should have put it in the contract? And we don't typically talk to other realtors like that. We don't like to burn bridges, but we might be thinking it,
Correct.
So. Okay, and I had one other example. Oh, the other example was the buyer. In this case, again, we were representing the seller. Okay, the buyer got their inspections.
Okay,
there was like a broken gutter on the back of the house and a broken gutter on the front of the house. And this was like labeled out in their inspection report. The buyer asked for both gutters to be fixed in their inspection notice to us. We rejected their, they asked for a bunch of stuff. Those were two of the many things that they asked for. We, basically rejected that offer and counter-offered by saying, no, we will fix the back gutter and we'll fix XX or, X1, 2, 3, whatever, a bunch of other stuff. And the buyer agreed. Okay. So then the buyer goes over there for their final walkthrough and they said, oh my gosh, that gutter is still broken. I'm not going to close on this property until you fix this gutter. And then the buyer's agent's calling our agent saying, you need to fix this gutter and we're not going to close and blah, blah, blah. And so no, we don't have to. We already agreed that we would fix the back one, not the front one.
But
we
it
have
was
it in writing.
Specifically written out that it was just the back one that was.
It was specifically written out that it was the back one. But the buyer's agent was thinking in this time that for some reason, I don't understand her logic, but even though we, in the inspection notice, it's like the buyer says, hey, will you please do this? And then on the next section, the seller can say either, yes, I will do that, or no, I won't do anything, or what we did in this case, C, which is no, I won't do those particular things, but I will do these particular things.
Correct.
And so somehow the buyer's agent had decided that, oh no, we were going to do everything on both lists. Like in her head, she thought that it was like all encompassing, that we were just agreeing to everything. And so this caused this big problem. I think that I'm glad that in that case, our agent called me and I was able to talk them through it and kind of know their rights. And sometimes there's like right and there's wrong and there's like what's going to work, right? And so in this case, our seller was closing that same day on the house that they were trying to buy. And the house that they were trying to buy had that seller was trying to close on another house, So we were talking about $150 gutter fix here.
Right.
And so there was right, which is no, we're not fixing it, deal with it. There was wrong, in my opinion, which was yes, we will fix it. You're so right. And then there was like what we should really do, and it wasn't worth delaying the closing and causing a lawsuit and fighting and all this kind of stuff over this deal when there was this whole kind of chain link of all these closings that happened. So I think our agent. My advice to our agent was, you can play hardball or you can just play easy or you can make an agreement that makes sense. And I think that's what they ended up doing. But this is a problem that shouldn't have happened. You can't fix somebody not knowing the rules and not knowing how the contract works, but the best thing we can do is know the rules and how the contract works. And I think the only thing our agent could do next time would maybe somehow be even more clear than she already was. And I felt like she was really clear with her amendments.
It always comes down to the same thing, though. Be as specific as you possibly can on any of the documents.
Absolutely. So actually, the contract that we wrote the other day that we're negotiating right now, that house on the hill, we had to say, refrigerator and kitchen stays. Refrigerator side by side, refrigerator and basement is not included. Washer and dryer on second floor, not included. Dryer and basement included. So we're trying to be
you have to be
really
specific. Right. That way you don't have problems on down the line.
It avoids problems. So that's all my content I have for today, Gerri. I want to see if you have any updates or anything. What's going on at the Hermann London Group coming up? We have any big events coming up?
No, let's see. This past Friday night, we went to the ballpark and we watched the Gateway Grizzlies over in Illinois play. It was a good time. It was a nice evening, and the weather held off. We didn't get rained on, just a little drizzle.
If you haven't been over there, I would encourage someone, especially a sports fan, to go over there because you're sitting close, you park close. Right? It's free parking, whatever.
It's a great venue. It puts you in mind if any of you have ever been to the spring training games down in Florida. It's kind of like
that. Even on a smaller scale than that, right? It's
small and up close and personal. It was a lot of fun. Nice people. We really enjoyed ourselves.
Well, we're talking about the past. The next night we had a couple of our agents doing stand-up comedy. Down at the West End Grill. That was pretty funny. Happy 4th of July, everybody.
Yep, happy 4th. Have a very safe and happy holiday.
As always, check out our website, hermannlondon.com, for the latest podcasts and for links to pictures and information that we've kind of referenced today. We always want more questions. Podcast at hermannlondon.com. Please email in your questions, and maybe we'll even make another fun video if we get it. Check out the videos that mad producer Joey Vosevich has been making. He's made an awesome Hermann London Maplewood video and a Hermann London Lindenwood Park video. I guess that's all for today. Thanks, guys, and take care.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.